the things that that hopefully we'll learn more about in coming weeks. I mean, just to be pretty direct, what we've learned so far in the week since the flood disaster in Kerr County is not particularly encouraging from my perspective as somebody who's been very involved in weather forecasting, weather warning, emergency management over the last, over my 30 plus year career. It just does not seem like the type of emergency preparedness activities and procedures and regulations were in place that you would expect given the tremendous vulnerability that this area had. It would be one thing, I was actually talking with my wife about this a couple of days ago. It would be one thing if this flood tragedy had happened in an area that had never experienced a flooding event like this, where it was very much a surprise. That's not the case here. This area is a known vulnerable area. There's been obviously a lot of conversation about whether or not there should have been more warning systems in the area. And all of those kind of discussions are fine to have. But what I really want to know is, were some of what would be considered basic emergency management actions taken, like your question, Roberta? Were there tabletop exercises, done to try to, gameplay out a flood event like this, and how county and city resources would respond to an event like this? It would seem to me like, given the number of people that were in a vulnerable location, and particularly the fact that routinely, you had large numbers of children in these vulnerable areas, that it would have just been very, just kind of standard operating procedure for county and state emergency management to have been aware of the vulnerability here and had aggressive training and planning for it. As of now, that doesn't seem to be the case. I would assume that we would have heard by now if there had been, 5 years ago, some big tabletop exercise among emergency managers and responders to prepare for an event like this. And certainly what we've seen reported as far as the warning receipt and dissemination in the county doesn't seem to have spoken of a really strong emergency plan. Now, having said all that, that's not to let individuals and the individual campgrounds off the hook either. They obviously everybody bears some level of responsibility here. And as I've said multiple times, it shouldn't be about pointing fingers. It should be about trying to figure out, the event has happened now and the tragedy has happened. What we need to do is learn where the shortfalls were, and number one, for this area to make sure that we do everything in our power to keep it from happening again, but then also to learn for other vulnerable areas like this, so that we don't have this tragedy somewhere else.